The Black Ice Chronicle's massive. It takes determination to continue to get this done. As you know, I'm out here getting ready to be in front of the camera for TBIC 6. Not many people have that determination to be out here. It is November 18th. It is 41 degrees in Las Vegas in the morning, and we're out here getting our morning run in. Let's bookmark that right there. What do I want to speak on today? With the election having gone down the way that it did, and our 45th president-elect is Donald Trump, it's the lesson that white people need to learn, that the white ruling class is not for you. But in this case, Donald Trump, coming from where he comes from, coming from a group of people who were legislated in to be white, and thus the battle between old and new money. He's battling against old money, and he's making sure that those that come up after him will not do the same thing to his established money as he's doing to old money. So thus he's making sure that the white underclass is never going to come up. You mark my words on that. But so let's bookmark that right there, and I'll get right back to the lesson that white folks need to learn. For black people, you know, I once had a friend who thought that racism and prejudice meant the same thing. He thought that racism and prejudice, the definition was the same, and it is not. So for us going forward, where there's a person in office that's really going to show black people where it's at, we have to go over some definitions, because not everyone has studied this situation and really know what definitions are. So let's start with prejudice. Prejudice is a preconceived notion about an individual or group. That's prejudice. So when you're in the store and the people who are under the white code see you and they grab their purse and do things like that and move away, that's prejudice, a preconceived notion about an individual or group. That also leads into the next definition, which is bigotry. Bigotry is acting on prejudice through verbal or non-verbal communication, meaning that verbally they will say different derogatory statements about an individual or group, or grabbing the purse or things like that, and that's bigotry, which leads into racism. Racism is different than bigotry. Racism is the oppression of an individual or group by another individual or group through the use of weaponry. So now you understand the importance of the Second Amendment to those who practice the white code. So we went through prejudice, bigotry, racism. Racism leads into and is brought about through a global system of oppression called white supremacy. And white supremacy is not only the oppression of people who have melanin in their skin, but the elimination of those who have melanin in their skin. That is what white supremacy is. It's a system. So through economics, through religion, through society, through any society or system that is set up, white supremacy is used to eliminate those who have melanin in their skin. Melanin. Look it up. So, those are the definitions so that people will understand. Because, there are some people who are afraid to ask white people who they work with, if it's in film or everyday life, they're afraid to ask, who did you vote for? Because they don't want to get an answer that would make them have to decide what type of black person they're going to be. Are they going to be one that stands up, or are they going to be one who tries to get along? But we already told you, the alt-right is not interested in black folks getting along. They are about an all-white nation. So now what? So there are people who are afraid to ask, who did you vote for? But I know that 63 to 67% of whites in America voted for Donald Trump. 63 to 67%. 57% of white women voted for Trump. And I have always said this, and this is true. Always remember, when you want to know where something germinates from, it always germinates from the woman. The hate breeds in the woman. How do I come to this this conclusion? Well, if you notice, every time there was a black man lynched, we'll just take Emmett Till for instance. They said that Emmett Till came in from Chicago. We know his mother warned him about what the South was like. He comes in from Chicago. He walks into the store, and and then the white woman says that he whistled at her, and thus and so they went and beat him up and tied him to a fan wheel and put him out there to sink in the Mississippi River. The hate breeds in the woman. Now that's just on the white side. Now that's extreme. Now let's look at what self-hate has breeded in black people. I did the original Black Ice, and there was a discussion with one of the models. I interviewed one of the models, and I just asked her questions, and it came down to a time. You can see that's up now, shameless plug, that's up now, reimagined. You can watch it. It's visual and it's audio. The original visual, I moved on from it because everyone has moved on. They're married, they have children, degrees, all that. So I moved on, and we kept the audio because it's very important, very conscious between a discussion at a photo shoot, the original Black Ice. But the discussion, the question and answer, it was like a discussion though. All my interviews are discussions. But anyway, I said, let me reel myself back in. That's going off on a tangent. But anyway, we were discussing, and I asked her, I say, a white woman will walk down the street in a dress, tight dress. Black women say nothing. Black woman walks down in the same dress, and sisters are talking about her, saying, oh, she's so nasty, and she's this and that, and this and that, and she's a whole slut, whoop, whoop, whoop. Then I ask her, I say, is the black woman's body nasty? And she said, no. I say, so why would the sisters sit up there and talk about her? And she said, maybe they couldn't afford that, or da-da-da, So as you watch and you listen to the piece, you find out that, or let me say that I've come to the conclusion that men, young men who are teenagers, and you may hear it because hip hop, for instance, is a teenage pushed musical genre, meaning that it's between 8 and 80 listen, but between 14 up to 20 usually push it, and then you get other people who are established who stay around, like Tribe Called Quest, Ice Cube, Jay-Z, etc., the ones that are going into Sinatra status, in this particular hip-hop genre. Okay, so where the young men first hear the word bitch and hoe from is not another male. Most of the time, they are young and they hear it from the woman who is looking at another woman and being judgmental of her and calling her a bitch or a hoe. Now, the type of woman that I came up under and the type of woman that I'm married to, those terms didn't come out their mouth and don't come out their mouth because they love their sisters. They love their black womanhood. And thus, because they show self-love, it can extend out to other groups of people. So then that's because they have self-love. So if you have self-love and you love yourself, then you will then show that same love to everyone else. But for those who have self-hate, and that goes in all races of people. There's only actually one race of people and variations of that one race, but for simplicity reasons, we're going to say the 5 races. Within each one of those races, there's self-hate. And if you self-hate, then you will hate others in your race as well as those outside. You will go and try to change yourself. You will talk about those who do better or who appear to be doing better. Under the system of white supremacy, no one is doing better. No one. Because relationships could always be better without being in the system of white supremacy. If white supremacy was eliminated, everyone's life would improve 200, 300, 500%, 1,000%. It would be better. Relationships would be better. So hate breeds in the woman. But bottom line, the hate breeds in the woman, which brings us back to why 57% of white women voted for Donald Trump and why 63 to 67% of the white population as a whole voted for Donald Trump. Because the self-hate breeds in the woman, and if they looked at Hillary Clinton and they looked at their condition and they said they could never do what Hillary Clinton could do, then they hate on her. They hated on her. And you add in Hillary Clinton's inconsistencies, suffering from self-hate herself. And first time she ran, she wanted to run more like a man. She didn't want to be considered a woman. This time she took up the mantle of womanhood, whereas she wasn't doing that before. You have to go back and check. So she flip-flopped, and that's why people couldn't trust her. And of course, the inconsistencies of super predators and 3 strikes that decimated the black community. Well, she was out the box, especially if the white women who voted for Donald Trump suffer from self-hate. The hate breeds in the woman, which gets us back to the lesson that white people who voted for Donald Trump are going to learn in the worst way. They're finally going to teach you that you, who had to be legislated in as white, are not the same as the original whites who came in and took away through hostile means a country that was already settled by black people and black Native Americans. Already settled by the time they got here. It wasn't a republic, it was a federation. But that's for you to go research and find it out for yourself. So when you learn, this is the lesson that they're going to have to learn. The lesson that the white folks who voted for Donald Trump are going to have to learn, and they're going to learn it in the worst way, is you are not like the white ruling class. Through eugenics, not only will black people see the oven, but so will you. It's funny how they're looking to Germany to be the place where democracy still reigns supreme when they were the ones who took eugenics to the super level, baking the Jews in the ovens. You've been watching the news. Biden kind of fucked it up a little bit, talking about his experiences and his experience, and if Pence needed any help. I said, well, that's a done deal right there. He opened up a little bit too much. That's a done deal. But so President Obama threw a few darts saying that the presidency is a position in an office that you will soon find out if you thought that it was easy or you really don't want to do it, it's going to expose you as you really didn't want to do it. You just were out on some kind of ego trip. So let's say Donald Trump steps down and Mike Pence gets in place. It's even worse. It's going to be even worse for you white folks who voted for Donald Trump, because the man that you voted for isn't there, which means the ruling class is really not going to care about you. And I have a feeling that that's what's going to happen. Mike Pence is going to become president because Donald Trump is not going to be able to fulfill his duties for some reason. Then you're really going to get hit. It was a trick. It's a trick game. But that's the lesson you're going to have to learn. You are not like the white ruling class. So it would be better to try to dismantle white supremacy, eliminate racism, bigotry, and preconceived notions about other people, and thus you will cripple the mechanism of eugenics and everyone's life expectancy and life achievement and life happiness will increase 500 to 1,000%. That's a guarantee. So that's what I wanted to speak on today. The lesson that the white folks have to learn who voted for Donald Trump. Stay tuned. The Black Ice Chronicles.